Some other they create it and they say, this is satisfying. But that still doesn't explain it, to say some other they create it, because I said when people asked me, or was intimated, why does she create a phobia versus depressing or something like that? I don't know. But this creative system is obviously capable of creating some things that are pretty difficult to understand. So that's all I can say. But why they would create that, and it's a very tough problem, because the little I understand of homosexuality is that it doesn't change. That once people develop a sexual preference, it's pretty much locked in. And there are people who are bisexual, but you can choose behaviors. But most bisexuals, had they their preference, would prefer to be homosexual, not bisexual. And there could be exceptions to that, but the research tends to show that as much as it can. Big mystery to me, and absolutely, I'd be very interested in Dawkins if he'd ever write to me and see if he can give me the answer from a Darwinian standpoint. If he's even thought about it, I don't know. So if I don't hear from him in a year, I'm going to call him on the phone. Is there another question? Yes, go ahead, Janet in the back.
Who defines being in effective control and not being in effective control?
Did you say who defines it? That's a good question. Who defines it? I think, let me answer that question by going a little bit around the bush, because it's a hard question. It seems simple, but it's not simple. In our field, we have diagnoses. I mean, I don't do much diagnosing, but when I learned regular kind of psychiatry and psychology, they talked about diagnoses and, like paranoia and things like that. And then you get to the idea of also, why does the person come to see you? And person comes to see you because their life is out of control. And a person who has a diagnosis is a person whose life is out of control. So now, could a person's life be out of control and not know it, or not complain about it, or not have behaviors relative to it? I suppose it's possible. But whenever you see anybody engaging in a total behavior that's painful or self-destructive or destructive to others, an irresponsible behavior, when I talk about reality therapy, I'll talk about that a little bit more, that's an out-of-control life. Now suppose I say to you, Janet, I think your life is out of control, and you say, no, I think my life is fine. Well, I wouldn't argue with you. I mean, on the other hand, if you call me from jail, I'll begin to say, well, you have a peculiar idea of what being in control is, and things like that. So it's a good question, but I don't think it's an important question to worry about. As a counselor, I don't go down the street tapping people on the shoulder and saying, is your life in control or out of control? If a person is sent to me for counseling that may believe my life is okay, I don't talk to them about whether it's in control or out of control. I just talk to them about, if your life is fine, why are you here? Well, the judge sent me here. Well, then the judge thinks your life is out of control. And if a judge thinks your life is out of control, it's good to pay attention. I mean, that's about all I can say. So it's a kind of a good theoretical question, but to worry about, I don't worry about that much. Maybe one more quick question. We only have a few minutes left here. Fitz, go ahead. Wait a second. You got to wait till the guy microphones you.
Your early work speaks about identity society and failure identity and success identity and loneliness. I haven't heard you speak about that recently. How would you combine that with the control theory?
Well, success identity is a person who has a solid set of organized behaviors that have kept your life under fairly good control. That would be a success identity. A failure identity would be lacking the organized behaviors to keep your life out of control. A failure identity also might mean wanting more than you can ever achieve, which leads you to a failure identity. And a success identity would mean tailoring your wants to what's achievable. If you're 5'5" and you want to play in the NBA, you're going to be miserable because they're going to take anybody 5'5" and things like that. So these are concepts which are still explainable by control theory and through control theory, but I would rather use in control of your life or perhaps not in effective control. But I have nothing against using those concepts. As I learned these, I've just kind of dropped off on those and have stopped using them. But there's nothing hardly in the book Identity Society that I still wouldn't say is okay, but I'd have to tailor it. If I rewrote it, I would tailor it to control theory. A culture, and I talk about culture in that book, and let me just mention, a culture is how people have agreed is the best way to behave to keep your life under control. That's what a culture is all about. Well, I think we have to cancel the question session now because we're out of tape. Thanks very much for asking the questions.